Welcome back to Spotlight. I'm Ed Juenka, and I'm here with Mr. John Perkins from the Natural Sept Canada, as well as I've just been joined by Ms. Karen Miller, Sustainability Advisor. Welcome, Karen. Good to see you.
Thanks. Nice to be here.
Yes. Everybody we had one big party today. Lots of eating and drinking and laughing.
That's right.
And hard work too.
You had hard work?
You had hard work, but you had fun.
I must have missed it.
Oh, that's good. That's good to hear.
That's what we like to hear, yeah.
Don't tell our bosses back home, though. Because
because when they send a report and you guys down here partying, I know how that could be. That would be good for your pocketbook and a family. Yeah. But Karen, we had the workshop today. We had a good time. You're a sustainability advisor. What a sustainability advisor does?
What do we do?
Yeah.
Well, I work, as John said, we work for an organization called the Natural Sept Canada, and in that role, we provide advice, facilitation to a number of businesses and municipalities in Canada. So my day-to-day work is there's a number of clients that I'm working with across the country. Some businesses, mostly businesses right now, and we help them to build sustainability strategies. So unpack those principles, what it means for their organization. So we come with expertise in sustainability and also expertise in facilitation and process and all that, and they're experts in whatever it is that they do. So we come together and we will facilitate meetings sort of like we did today, where we have a conversation about what these principles and what these concepts and what this framework, what it means for this organization or for this group of people in what they do. And then we help them to come up with ways in which they can move in that direction, and we support them along the way. So some of the organizations that we've been working with for a number of years, we keep helping them. We help train more people internally, train the trainers, give them advice as they move along that journey.
So what are the companies, what are they trying to do? I mean, from a sustainability perspective, and if you could just give us an example so that it's clear.
Yeah.
What they recognize as a challenge and their business, in their industry, and the things that the products that they produce, what they recognize as a challenge and what are they trying to correct?
Okay, so one of the organizations right now that I'm working with is called ISL Engineering, and they're an engineering company based in Western Canada, and they do all sorts of things. They build, they're consulting engineers, so they build roads, they design water and wastewater treatment plants. They have a landscape architecture group, so they build plans and designs for a number of different clients in a lot of different places. And they started with their strategy a few years ago and crafted a bunch of goals. They have goals for what they want their own operations to be like. They want to be zero waste. They want to be carbon neutral in their own operations. They have goals for their governance, goals for their people, and the kind of voice that they want to have in their industry. They want to be leading change towards sustainability. And the part that they're working in right now, and this is a few years into their journey, is really what does sustainability mean at a project level for them. So right now we're working with the water group. They build water treatment plants, wastewater treatment plants, and they're asking themselves, okay, how can we integrate sustainability into these projects that we design? So how can we make sure that the materials we choose in these big projects are in, as John said, as closed loop cycles, right? So they're thinking through what it is that they're building from a perspective that takes into account sustainability all through the life cycle of that project.
I'm having challenges with the language. Right? So I suspect there are other people like me that's having challenges with the language. And closing the loop and sustainability and what that means. And so I'm wondering if we could really make it simpler, not to make you go through too much detail, but from a company standpoint, you're building waste treatment plants, or water desalination plants, or what reverse osmosis plants, whatever. What you're talking about, the materials that you use, and how that material impact the environment, the chemicals that you use to, the filters that you use to process the water, the brine that comes off from the water, and where does that go, and what you do with that. Are those the kind of questions that they are asking themselves? Take us through that process.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the kind of question. So it starts right at the beginning of, okay, well, what is this project for, and what needs does this project meet? What are the goals? How does this project help to reach the vision of this community and provide clean water for this
without harming
over the long term. Starting from that, and then getting into, okay, well, what are some of our options when it comes to design, and looking at what those options are, looking at, okay, well, how does this influence what materials, how would this, if we choose this design option, how will that go throughout the life cycle? What chemicals will we need to put in? What chemicals will come out? How will that influence the ecosystems around it? So, and then at the end of its usable life, if it's going to last for 25, 50 years, what happens after that? Are we building something that can be refurbished, that can be disassembled, and that we can do something with it afterwards? And what kind of legacy will this project leave at the end?
And what's the benefit to companies that do this? What do they see as their benefit?
Well, this particular organization, it was very much a business choice. It was, well, first of all, there's a lot of people there who work there who really care and really get it, and it means something to them. And also, they were finding that a lot of the requests for proposals that they were getting, people were asking questions about sustainability and about what they were doing when it comes to sustainability. So they thought, okay, well, this is clearly something that's important and important for our business.
The population is driving that concern, and forcing the companies to think about how they're producing, what they're producing, and what the impact of that production is on the environment.
In some companies, there's a number of different stakeholders, and some are more important for some companies and some are more important for others, but government legislation is in a lot of places getting stronger. There's more demanding. The public is certainly becoming more aware of things. There's also employees as a really important stakeholder that increasingly are demanding, they want to work for organizations that are making a positive impact on the world. So talented, skilled employees often are attracted to employers and to companies that are doing good work and who are taking sustainability seriously and being proactive about it.
So it's mostly populations that are becoming aware, that's driving the companies and driving governments to look at sustainability issues, look at the environment. Companies are taking leadership and initiative on their own. Are we forcing sustainability on them, or are they saying, for our own good as a company and as people and for our own children, we need to really take a serious look at these things and initiate some of these challenges? Because I know how companies like to just make money; they don't like to spend too much money. So what's driving the sustainability issue? The awareness.
Yeah, there's a number of drivers, and John can weigh in on this one as well. It depends on the company. Sometimes there's someone. One wonderful story is Ray Anderson, who was the CEO. He's the late Ray Anderson, and he just had, they're a carpet company based in Georgia, and he read a book and just thought, wow, I'm part of this problem. It's called The Ecology of Commerce by Paul Hawken, and he read it and had a complete turnaround in the way he was thinking about what he was doing, and he thought, wow, we need to change the way that industry happens, and we can do good in the world through doing business. So he he led that company through an incredible journey. And so in that case, he was the spark, but there were a lot more drivers happening, and he's one spark at the top, and it took a lot to get the whole organization bought in and on board, and it's just a beautiful story of how that.
So sort of a spiritual motivation, a recognition that you're doing something that's terribly wrong, and that you need to make some corrections because you're harming people while you're making money. You're harming others. That's sort of like the spiritual aspect of that.
I'd say that's on the. Those are the stories I love, but there aren't as many of them as we need. There aren't as many leaders out there, or second followers, as you might recall from the workshop today. There aren't as many leaders out there who are stepping up and willing to take that kind of risk. But the other way that it's changing in business that we see is that it's actually coming from the investment sector, right? Money talks, as businesses know, and the financial sector is saying to companies that are borrowing money, what are you doing to mitigate risk against climate change? What are you doing from a corporate social responsibility perspective? So there's also a push as well for those that are maybe thinking about it a little bit, and that's a really strong impetus for them to start exploring what the value of this is. So that's there are more and more companies that we find who are willing to start by having a conversation and say, all right, I've heard about the sustainability stuff. Let me talk to someone about what the value of the sustainability could mean for me. Maybe there's money in it, and usually they're right. There is money to be made in this. So it's not only about environment and economy. It's about how can we bring both together in a way that's profitable for business and in a way that doesn't come back to
and it's good for the environment.
Yeah.
Have you identified any sustainability challenges in the BVI?
I think first of all, for the workshop that we're doing here in the BVI, one of our sessions tomorrow is all about key sustainability challenges. So I know as a workshop participant, I can't give you the answer to that question. I've not spent a lot of time here, but I can share just my own observations, and I think that the challenges, having participants and people who live here identify those challenges is much more meaningful. They know what they are. But from some of the ones that I can see, just relating it back to where I live, waste is a challenge here. There's there isn't any, or if there is, there's very little recycling. There's some good efforts done, as I heard in the workshop today, but in general, waste I'd see as a big issue. On the transportation side as well, I think that's the ability to get around without a car is pretty hard. I do a lot of cycling. I saw some brave cyclists out here. I'd love to come back and do the Tour de Tortola at some point, because I really do like biking up hills. I'm one of those crazy types. But transportation and how people get around, I think that's also an issue from what I saw.
And bike lanes and all those things as well.
Well, wouldn't it be lovely in the future to be able to have bike lanes that are safe for our kids, or for kids in BVI to bike on, or for more sidewalks for people
to walk and exercise
throughout the region. So those are two. I think waste.
The greatest.
The little bit I know about the incinerator, and I really don't know a lot. I'm not opposed to incineration, but I think it's the absolute last thing that you do when you're dealing with waste management, and you need to have the appropriate type of technology. But again, I don't know the type of incineration system that's here.
Recycling waste to produce something else.
This is, as you pointed out to me when we started. This is a glass of Heineken. Unfortunately, it doesn't have any beer in it, but it's a glass. It's a bottle that was made into this beautiful glass. This would have ended up in landfill. I can't go in the incinerator. It would have ended up.
It would have ended up in the incinerator and clogged
up the incinerator. So now it's this beautiful glass. It's a wonderful project that Green VI has been involved in. So that's an example of how you can take waste that perhaps the tourists bring here and use, and then sell it back to them. So you're closing the loop, right? And you're extracting value from that, and you're creating jobs locally. So that's that's an example of sustainability in action right there.
Okay. But it sounds like you also included infrastructure in the sustainability equation, because, like, when people talk about sustainability, well, I know we have a tendency to think of just waste. Yeah. Pollution, whether it's garbage in the environment or pollution in the air, some such thing as a harmful pollutant. We degrading the earth. Yeah. Right? I'm still beginning to use the terms already, right? we degrading the earth. But when you talk about infrastructure development, I never thought of infrastructure development as part of sustainable development or sustainability. Yeah. So how is that being sustainable? Having a transportation system or something. How is that? Where that comes into the equation?
Infrastructure, it really influences what possibilities there are for people, right? So people's behavior and the choices people make on a day-to-day basis are so driven by the infrastructure and the options available for them. So if the way to get it, with roads in a certain way, everyone will drive. If it's not safe to walk or if it's not safe to bike, then that's the choices that people make. And if the water, everyone's gonna use the toilets, everyone's gonna flush things down, everyone will drink water, and everyone will eat. So what the infrastructure is really influences what the impacts of those actions that everyone will take, regardless of what infrastructure is available, what the impacts of those are from a sustainability perspective.
Okay, so if I had a choice of leaving my car home, then I would not burn a fossil fuel, so I wouldn't have emissions, and I wouldn't have a greater carbon footprint. That's how that story goes.
Yeah, and also there's some neat possibilities with biofuels and things like that. I know I have a friend in Canada who configured a bus to run on veggie oil and waste oil, and drove it across the country with a bunch of people on bikes to raise awareness about climate change. And so if there's infrastructure to provide fuel that's from a sustainable source, or that's from a renewable source that's not coming up from the ground to be burned and add carbon dioxide to the atmosphere, if it's something that's within that cycle already, then there's options there too. But you need the infrastructure to make those choices easy, and to make those choices possible for people on a day-to-day basis.
So instead of throwing coconut oil down in the drain and clogging up the sewer and clogging up the drains and so on, you turn it into biofuel, and you put it into the car, and then
you burn that.
You try and find ways to use those resources around you. So we have some cities in Canada, Calgary, one of them, where their public transportation system is called Ride the Wind, because it's powered by wind energy from local wind farms. So there's a variety of ways of trying to come up with renewable sources of moving people around. We're not saying you should have vehicles or some form of mobility of getting people around. That's what people like, right? People want to get from point A to point B. They don't want to come in sweaty from having to ride their bike necessarily. But how can we move people around in a way that doesn't have the same impact? So there's lots of new options that are coming to the table now for different communities.
Okay, because I know that we are doing a lot of different vision statements and various aspects of development, sustainable development, and you talk about things like education as having a sustainable vision, and it's interesting because you never think of, as I said, you have a narrow view of what sustainability is, and we need to have, it seems like we need to have what I'm learning is that we need to have this broad, overall, holistic approach to just life in general. I mean, am I going in the right direction with that thought?
I think we need to have a clarity on where you want to go as for the BVI, right? What is success for you in the future, and how do you define that sustainable future for BVI? So knowing where you're going, it is half the battle. It really helps, because what that does is then you can say, you know, if you're a business in BVI operating, you can say, you know what, I have a role to play in helping to create that future, and I can make money and raise my family in a way that's comfortable and enjoyable. Or as the government, you can say, okay, well, now I can see more clearly how I can set up the different forms of infrastructure and other services to help achieve that goal and vision. So if you're able to rally people towards a common goal, there's like this swell of energy and an initiative that comes behind that. So we start by clarifying that, but then we also get to action, right? It's not only about thinking cerebrally about the future, it's also about saying, what can I do tomorrow to get things going? How can I start working on this? What action can I take? What can I do?
Okay, I want to try something. We have to take a break, but I want to try something. Let me see how much time I have. When I come, 4:30 o'clock, time is going so fast. Yeah, but I want to see if we could think up a small BVI sustainability development scenario. You know, I don't know quite what I mean, but but we're gonna try it when we come back. Keep it locked right into Spotlight. We'll be right back after these words from our sponsors.
Spotlight is brought to you by the National Bank of the Virgin Islands, Tortola Concrete Limited, and CCT Global Communications.
Welcome back to Spotlight. We've been having a fantastic discussion here this evening with Mr. John Perkins. He's the senior advisor and senior manager of Sustainable Communities, the Natural Sept Canada. We also had a great discussion with Ms. Senara Benjamin Duncan. She's the education officer in the Department of Conservation and Fisheries, and we've been joined a few moments ago by Ms. Karen Miller. She's a sustainability advisor with the Natural Sept Canada program, and we're talking about sustainable development in the BVI and building capacity for sustainability. We understand that the Conservation and Fisheries Department, along with the Ministry of Natural Resources and Labor, and the overall BVI government is now focusing on more sustainable development, building capacity for sustainability. So it's great things happening. So very happy about that. So we've been having a great discussion. I haven't opened up the phones, but if anybody wants to call, we are going to 9:45. So we still have about 15 more minutes or more. So if you want to call or you want to text, the number's going to come up on the screen. So feel free as you like. We're talking about, I had this idea that I don't know how it's going to work, but a holistic approach to BVI sustainability and what the BVI should look like sometime in the future. So that's backcasted, right? So we're going to backcast the BVI, and then we're going to see. I like the language. You can tell, right? I'm having a good time.
It's good.
Yeah. And we're going to see what what the principles are that we need to use to develop that, to realize that vision. To go forward first, then you come back to go forward again. Right? That's how I translate it. That's the English that I know.
It's perfect English.
That's true. That's good. That's good. So what are we looking at? BVI that's energy self-sufficient. Give us some
of the things that I'll speak from a couple of perspectives. First is during the workshop today, the participants that we worked with came up with a number of they looked at different BVI from a systems perspective. So they said, what are the systems that really make BVI work and function? So there's a number of things. We did talk about infrastructure and buildings and waste, transportation, energy, culture, which is a huge one, and a number of others that I don't.
Waste management.
There was business and tourism. There was.
Of course.
Yeah.
So the participants, what they did is they came up with descriptions of success, a vision, if you will. So a number of those visions related to things like we'd like the BVI to function or operate based on 100% renewable energy in the future. Not tomorrow, not next year, but sometime down the road. That would be something nice to have, that sort of self-sufficiency, so that you didn't have to import and pay very heavy prices for the various fossil fuels that you use. So there's a number of ways of doing that, and I'll just focus on that one for a minute, and maybe share some other examples. So instead of telling BVI what it should do, I don't know. I can share examples, and I think it's really up to people from BVI to stand up and say, this is the kind of future that we would like to create for ourselves. It's our island. It's this is our lives. This is really what we'd like to see. But I can say in some other communities on the energy side, there's one great infrastructure example is the city of Toronto. They put in their pipe for drinking water. They get it from a big lake, so they don't have to deal with desalination. But they ended up putting it a little bit lower down in the lake, where it's a bit colder, right? And they ran that through a heat exchanger, and they're now using that as air conditioning. And they're saving probably about $3 or $4 million a year by using this system, as opposed to using electric air conditioners in this tower. So there are tons of examples and ideas and innovative solutions from a small scale right on up to billion-dollar projects that can really save a lot of money, reduce greenhouse gas emissions, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the waste or the energy is one side of things, but that's one of the emerging emerging visions that is being created through this workshop, is one in which BVI is powered by renewable energy.
Okay. We also, the one that comes to my mind, and which is a pet project of mine, is wellness maintenance. And I was thinking about it today when we were doing the sustainability the principles in the workshop, is that we are eating and making ourselves sick, and then we are going to create a national health insurance scheme, right? So a national health insurance scheme is going to pay for sick people who continue to get sick all the time because they don't change their lifestyle. So that appears to me to be an unsustainable activity, because you got the rising cost of healthcare equipment, you have the rising cost of medication, you have the rising cost of labor, and you have more and more people keep getting sick. So does that sound to you like a sustainable plan?
Well, that just highlights the interconnections between these systems that we were talking about, because another one that came up today was food security.
Yes.
And so we've only just started this work, right? So you build them, and then you look at how they connect with each other, and if there's ideas around the food system and the education system and all these different systems, they're all very linked to health and well-being and all that. It's not just, oh, we need to fix this problem, oh, we need to fix this problem. We need to, if we start looking at the root causes, then the solutions tend to solve more than one problem all at once. Then when you look at some of these ideas.
So let's take that challenge that I just presented there. how would we analyze that? What would be a sustainable approach?
Well, I would first say, you know, we're fortunate in Canada because we do have a national health care plan, and I can tell you that it's a relief not to have to worry about healthcare. You know, if I have an accident or a major problem, I know I can get taken very good care of. So having that comfort and security goes towards meeting our needs. When we talked about those human needs of Manfred Max Neef today, that's one of them, is being able to have that health and security. At the same time, at the opposite end of the scale, and you pointed out very nicely, well, at the same time, we're also kind of making ourselves a little bit sick, right? With unhealthy lifestyles, unhealthy eating habits. We're putting in more toxics and other stuff into our body. So we
are sitting down more, watching television,
we have sedentary lifestyles.
Yes.
So we're not setting ourselves up for success, right?
Right.
So in Canada, we have the opposite end of this problem, right? Our tax dollars, a lot of them get spent on healthcare. So how can we actually spend our money more wisely to raise awareness and get people to, you know, take better care of themselves, right? Let's put better stuff into our body so that we don't have those problems. But at the same time, if we do, and they're real, there's a genetic problem, there's a major accident, it's nice to have that security of that health coverage. So I look at it personally from both perspectives, right? Where it's good to have it. At the same time, if we continue on the path that we're going, we can't afford to have it because of the way we're looking after ourselves.
So is Canada looking at ways to encourage people to change their lifestyle? I mean, how are they mitigating that particular challenge in Canada?
From a health perspective, I had a wonderful workshop. We've done a little bit of work with Health Canada, our federal government department there, who was trying to use these, or exploring using the framework to envision a sustainable health system. So through that process, they did explore a number of different ways. On the ground, though, I know in the city of Toronto, the health services, they do have local doctors there who work from their homes and are on, you know, more like a neighborhood doctor in the old days, right? So they're on call. They see their patients in their community. They're able to interact with them more and to help them overcome specific issues. So there's certainly some of it. There's a lot of information on health, healthy eating, healthy lifestyles, and there's changes that some of the school systems are making so that they're not just packed full of sugar and junk food, but there's really good, healthy, nutritious options that are there. So there's a number of small things that I see happening there.
So from what you want to add? Anything?
Well, just that it is a challenge in Canada. It's a big challenge that.
From a sustainability perspective, we will be talking about in our cafeteria, for example, to be putting good food in the cafeteria, nutritious food in the cafeteria, and not fatty and salty and sugary foods and beverages, to reduce obesity and clog up arteries and hypertension and diabetes and all of those chronic diseases. You know, we're at a stage now where approximately 50% of our population is suffering from one chronic disease or the other, which is a tremendous statistic. So we're talking about then bringing information, showing people how to prepare foods, what kind of foods to prepare, what the exercises, so that we could maintain wellness and thus reduce the cost to the National Health Insurance Scheme, which will again make it more sustainable. That based on what the information I got today, that
I think that your explanation, this is not my area of expertise, right? And a lot of, just to clarify, a lot of the work that we do is we don't go in with the solution, right? Okay. So we're kind of cheapskates that way, where what we do, and I mean that in a humorous sense, but we really try to help build that capacity in other people to make those decisions. So we don't always give people answers. But on this health one, I find it quite interesting personally, and I had the pleasure of meeting your brother the other day on a beach. He was a doctor, and I had a great conversation with him about health, and partially in the BVI, but also more generally. And one of the gentlemen that I came across in the United States, Jamie Oliver, has done a fantastic job at bringing exactly what you talked about into school systems there, getting kids more involved in cooking meals, getting them on a program where they can actually eat something like lettuce or fruits and vegetables instead of prepared food that they're so accustomed to, which is, so there are, again, I'm not an expert in that at all, but I've seen some really good success in that program by Jamie Oliver, which is worth looking at.
Yeah. Well, I'm not holding you to the technical aspect of it, but from the sustainable facilitation of it, where you start looking, you begin to look at your environment from that sustainable perspective, and you start thinking to yourself, well, this behavior or this legislation or this activity is unsustainable, and we need to now look to see, yes, this is a good thing, yes, the National Health Insurance Scheme is a good thing, but how long will it last under these conditions? Yeah. That's the question.
It's actually really similar to some of the environmental stuff that you look at. So if you've got an oil spill, you're not going to say, we're not going to clean that up, because you need to clean that up. And like if someone's sick, you need to take care of them. So it's similar. These are symptoms of underlying problems, and you need to deal with the downstream effects. You can't just stop doing that. At the same time, you want to also look at why that's happening. And so that's what the framework and what we're really working towards, that approach of saying, okay, well, if there's an oil spill, why is there an oil spill? What's behind that, and how can we change it so that won't happen in the future? Same thing with health. Why are so many people getting sick in this way? And often it's linked to some of these environmental things as well. So then, okay, how can we change and build all sorts of great programs looking to address the underlying causes for some of these things? So it's not one or the other. It's they're both important, and they both.
So there's this holistic approach, because then you would need to look at education in a sustainable way as well, and have all of these things working simultaneously to create that, to build that sustainability capacity overall and around everything. And of course, if you're going to have exercise, then you need the infrastructure for people to be able to have access to walk in. So when you talk about sustainability, you go into just about everything in the society.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I mean, I always like to say, from a systems perspective, from a simplistic perspective, there are only 4 things that we're doing wrong. Right, and those are the 4 sustainability principles, and that's really good, because they're fairly simple. It takes a little time to wrap our heads around them, but they permeate everything that we do, and that's the challenge, right? Everything that we do when we're designing, electronics, when we're making cars, when we're building roads, all of those decisions lead up to future impacts when we choose the type of food we're putting in our system. So it really does permeate how we live and the choices that we make. Yet at the same time, if we're able to come up with ways of innovative ways that allow us to flourish and thrive, and that overcome these, then we're golden, right? We're living the good life, and well, by that I mean we're not all millionaires, because
right, but we certainly our quality of life is enhanced.
Yes, we have an enhanced quality of life. Yes, absolutely.
And so one, we have to stop dumping stuff on the earth in a large amounts, that more than what the earth can absorb.
Yeah.
Right. And then
second one's the same, but the second one's the same. So one of the quick ways that one of our municipal partners came up with it, or someone in one of the workshops, and tomorrow's workshop that we have with participants here, everyone will be doing their own presentation.
And I have homework, so I got to get.
So you're actually cheating, because you're practicing now, right? But everyone's going to be doing those tomorrow. But what this group came up with in Canada was dig, dump, degrade, demean.
Dig, dump, degrade, demean.
So digging stuff out of the earth's crust, but it's really, I mean, it's a very quick cheat sheet way of saying it. But
and I think that's what we need, because we need to understand it in that way.
Mm-hmm. Well, the other important thing to say about this is that these sustainability principles are not what we lead a communications campaign with. So the output from the workshop that you're involved in, you'll create these very nice vision statements, which you started to work on today. Those things are much more tangible, easy to communicate, realistic.
And sound better.
And they sound a lot better, let's be honest. So these principles, the reason that it's nice to talk about them, but when you learn a new language, you don't want to go on TV and practice it the first day that you're learning it, and you did that, so congratulations. You want to have time to practice and to make it your own, right? So the visions that people are creating will articulate these in a really nice way.
But I think we need to know what we're doing wrong. You need to understand that you're digging up the ground, then you're dumping stuff on it, then you're denying people the access to the things that they need. You don't have the infrastructure. You need exercise, and I keep going back to health because it's the easiest one for me. Mm-hmm. I can't exercise because I can't walk in the street because there's no sidewalks. I can't ride my bike on the street because there's no bike lanes. So I'm afraid I'm going to get hit. I'm afraid I'm going to get hit if I'm walking. So there are no trees in the street to provide shade in the heat of the day for me to want to walk from point A to point B. So I think all of these things are playing into that whole sustainability issue as well. Mm-hmm. So that's where I'm trying to go with that whole holistic approach to the vision that we would have for the BVI would have to come out of that these principles and that whole sustainability perspective. Let me see, somebody texts us, and I'm sort of like excited about this because it says, I'm continuing to enjoy your program here in Barbados. Oh. So somebody is watching us on jtvlive.net, and I forgot to say that we are streaming live on jtvlive.net because I've been so excited from today.
Wonderful.
About the workshop. So I'm excited if I forget. I'm continuing to enjoy your program here in Barbados. An excellent discussion on physical sustainability. Good job. Is there the different types of sustainability? Like one's physical sustainability, one is mental sustainability?
No, I think my sense of that is that we talk about environmentalism and sustainability, and there's an older school of thought where there's a difference between the environment and people and our economy, and they're all connected. We look at it like three spheres, if you will. The environment, we live on this planet. It's a big round planet. That's our environment. Our economy is in there, but it's a construct of our society. The economy wouldn't exist without people, right? So we look at these as sort of three concentric circles. Anyhow, all that to say is that when we talk about sustainability, it does mean so many different things to different people, and that's part of the challenge, is coming up with a common language that people can use, so when they're sitting around the boardroom table or the coffee table at home, they're talking about the same thing.
And understand each other.
Yeah, yeah.
That's great. Any final comments before I turn 8 o'clock?
Sure. Well, for me, just thank you very much for having us here. It's a pleasure to have you in our workshop as well, and it's a pleasure to be here in the BVI. And I'd just like to thank our gracious hosts, Kate over at Surf Song, who's been hosting us and letting us stay at her lovely place, and also to Charlotte from Green VI, who's been very helpful at making this happen, and Sinera as well. So thank everyone for making us feel so welcome here.
That's great, and thanks for coming by and coming to the BVI and bringing us this important information, and of course come in and let the spotlight shine on you. It was great to have you. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Great. Next week the spotlight will shine on 6-year-old Jalen Whitley Cameron. He'll be reading for us in celebration of the BVI Reading Council's 17th anniversary, so that should be interesting to see a young 5-6-year-old kid reading and encouraging others to read. And I want to remind you while I'm at it that the Reading Council, of course, is trying to have the Adults All-Star Spelling Bee, and that's going to be held on September the 8th in the Cultural Center, and Teacher Linden is looking for 10 teams of 3 persons each, so please give a call at 494-7739, 494-7739, or 494-7740, 494-7740. You can email her at linden_smith@hotmail.com. That's linden_smith@hotmail.com, or stop into her office in the UNESCO office in the Ward building. We need to get some more participants in the spelling bee, and that's going to be on September the 8th. That sounds like this weekend. Also, there's the big banquet coming up, September the, let me see, is a date here? All right, I don't see a date yet, but we're going to get the date. But you could check her out to get banquet tickets as well at the same phone numbers, 494-7739 and 494-7740, to get tickets for the banquet. We're also going to have next week the principal of St. George's Secondary School going to be talking about new developments at the school. We know CXC becoming the standard. St. George has been practicing that standard for a long time. So there's some new developments, new principal, new vision for St. George's. She's going to be here with us next Tuesday on Spotlight, so make sure you tune in. You could catch up on all your Spotlights on demand at jtvlive.net. Yes, jtvlive.net. You can catch all the Spotlights on jtvlive.net. Of course, you could, if you don't have a television, you could stream, catch us on live stream, like the person in Barbados is doing tonight. And I want to thank him or her for texting us and letting us know that they're there. Pick up Barbados. Thank you very much. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your suggestions, your criticism, your words of encouragement. Continue to email me at jtvspotlight@yahoo.com. I'm Ed Jurenko, reminding you that when the spotlight is on, you see the facts. Peace and blessings.
This program is sponsored by the law firm of J.S. Archibald & Co. and by the trust company J.S. Archibald Trust Services Limited, both of Roadtown, Tortola, BVI.